Northwestern University has a world-renowned tradition of Big Ten football for over 100 years.
To the 20, to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
And Ryan Field has carried on this tradition, celebrated with the victories and suffered with the defeats. And now it's time for something new. We have reimagined Ryan Field as a brand new state-of-the-art stadium campus that not only serves Northwestern athletics, but also the surrounding community. The new Ryan Field will be the nation's best football experience and the finest facilities for Northwestern's football and women's lacrosse programs. Inspired by the old Chicago Stadium, the new Ryan Field will host the best sightlines in college sports. Spectators will see the game as if it's on a big screen, when in reality, they are just that close to the action. Unlike traditional bowl stadiums, the new Ryan Field is designed to bring fans closer to the action. The least expensive seat in the stadium will be hundreds of feet closer to the field with better views than the most expensive seats in other college stadiums. The fan experience at the new Ryan Field will be unlike anything in college football. Every seat will provide a premium experience. Every fan will have access to world-class amenities. Fans will be protected from the cold and rain by a new state-of-the-art canopy, and each seat will have a supportive back. Accessibility to all fans is paramount. The new Ryan Field will be the most accessible stadium in college football. No other stadium in the country will be built to meet the needs of people with all abilities. The new Ryan Field will be highly sustainable and LEED Gold certified. Working from the overarching goals of the Northwestern University Sustainability Plan and Evanston's Climate Action and Resilience Plan, the rebuild is an opportunity to make a sustainable and positive impact on the university and the surrounding community. At the heart of the new Ryan Field design is the community's goals and concerns. We recognize that the current Ryan Field is viewed by many community members as having more deficiencies than benefits for the local community. University leadership has been actively listening to stadium neighbors and Evanston residents to better understand the perceived shortcomings of the current stadium and what is important to the Northwestern and Evanston communities. The number one concern we have heard time and again is game day congestion. We have also heard frustration with game day noise and lighting coming from the outdated stadium and tailgate spillover into local neighborhoods. We have a multifaceted plan to significantly mitigate traffic congestion around big games. The seating capacity of the new Ryan Field will be a more intimate setting with 12,000 fewer seats than the current Ryan Field. Fewer people at big games means fewer cars. With so many fans coming from the local area, we are committed to being the most bike-friendly college venue in America. We will streamline ride-sharing areas and provide door-to-door service to accommodate guests with disabilities. And we are engaging CTA and Metra to maximize the use of public transit. And the state-of-the-art canopy will significantly contain stadium noise and lighting. Harnessing the full potential of the site, we will create plazas adjacent to the stadium. This space will provide exceptional pre-game and halftime experiences. Utilizing this space will mitigate tailgate overflow into neighboring streets. This is more than just a building. The new Ryan Field will serve both as a campus stadium and a town center for all to enjoy. We're not just building a football stadium, we're building a community asset. Evanston residents will gather, connect, learn, play, and celebrate year-round. This community-oriented venue will host seasonal festivals, holiday events, music, theater, movie nights, and other community activities. We will build a dynamic and world-class new park, usable 365 days of the year. The new Ryan Field will be a hub of programming and activity, including a venue for intramural playoffs, a pop-up faculty club, and a low-cost, high-value venue for students, faculty, and community events. The best part is, no public funding will be utilized, meaning no taxpayer financing to build and maintain the new Ryan Field Plaza and campus. It will be funded entirely by the Ryan family and Northwestern University. Academics and other varsity sports will not be affected financially with this endeavor. Due to the generosity of the Ryan family, there will be no impact on the ongoing investment in academics at Northwestern. The new Ryan Field will not come at the cost of research, scholarship, student aid, or faculty support. Budgets for non-football athletics will also not be impacted. The new Ryan Field campus will be the only Power 5 football stadium built without public money this century. The plazas will create an asset to the community and will benefit Evanston and Northwestern 365 days per year. The rebuild of Ryan Field will generate once-in-a-generation economic activity for the city of Evanston and its community. Trip Umbach, a nationally recognized expert and economist, recently completed an economic impact study and found that the new Ryan Field and Plaza will generate over $600 million in economic impact to Evanston, will create 2,900 new jobs, and will generate over $10 million throughout the construction period. Economic opportunities abound for local, minority, and women-owned business enterprises in the Chicago metropolitan area. The target for the total subcontracted spend with local, minority, and women business enterprise vendors is 35%. The rebuild of the new Ryan Field is a once-in-a-century opportunity to create a world-class facility and would be the largest single investment ever made in the Evanston community. The city of Evanston and Northwestern University are inextricably linked. Together, let's move into the future and build a state-of-the-art stadium that will make an impact for generations to come. Northwestern University has a world-renowned tradition of Big Ten football for over 100 years.
To the 20, to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
And Ryan Field has carried on this tradition, celebrated with the victories and suffered with the defeats. And now it's time for something new. We have reimagined Ryan Field as a brand new state-of-the-art stadium campus that not only serves Northwestern athletics, but also the surrounding community. The new Ryan Field will be the nation's best football experience and the finest facilities for Northwestern's football and women's lacrosse programs.
Kalinsky finds Hall. He's got the first down and then some. Evan Hall! Touchdown Northwestern!
Inspired by the old Chicago Stadium, the new Ryan Field will host the best sightlines in college sports. Spectators will see the game as if it's on a big screen, when in reality, they are just that close to the action. Unlike traditional bowl, will provide a premium experience. Every fan will have access to world-class amenities. Fans will be protected from the cold and rain by a new state-of-the-art canopy, and each seat will have a supportive back. Accessibility to all fans is paramount. The new Ryan Field will be the most accessible stadium in college football. No other stadium in the country will be built to meet the needs of people with all abilities. The new Ryan Field will be highly sustainable and LEED Gold certified. Working from the overarching goals of the Northwestern University Sustainability Plan and Evanston's Climate Action and Resilience Plan, the rebuild is an opportunity to make a sustainable and positive impact on the university and the surrounding community. At the heart of the new Ryan Field design is the community's goals and concerns. We recognize that the current Ryan Field is viewed by many community members as having more deficiencies than benefits for the local community. University leadership has been actively listening to Stadium Nabors and Evanston residents to better understand the perceived shortcomings of the current stadium and what is important to the Northwestern and Evanston communities. The number one concern we have heard time and again is game day congestion. We have also heard frustration with game day noise and lighting coming from the outdated stadium and tailgate spillover into local neighborhoods. We have a multifaceted plan to significantly mitigate traffic congestion around big games. The seating capacity of the new Ryan Field will be a more intimate setting with 12,000 fewer seats than the current Ryan Field. Fewer people at big games means fewer cars. With so many fans coming from the local area, we are committed to being the most bike-friendly college venue in America. We will streamline ride-sharing areas and provide door-to-door service to accommodate guests with disabilities. And we are engaging CTA and Metra to maximize the use of public transit. And the state-of-the-art canopy will significantly contain stadium noise and lighting. Harnessing the full potential of the site, we will create plazas adjacent to the stadium. This space will provide exceptional pre-game and halftime experiences. Utilizing this space will mitigate tailgate overflow into neighboring streets. This is more than just a building. The new Ryan Field will serve both as a campus stadium and a town center for all to enjoy. We're not just building a football stadium, we're building a community asset. Evanston residents will gather, connect, learn, play, and celebrate year-round. This community-oriented venue will host seasonal festivals, holiday events, music, theater, movie nights, and other community activities. We will build a dynamic and world-class new park, usable 365 days of the year. The new Ryan Field will be a hub of programming and activity, including a venue for intramural playoffs, a pop-up faculty club, and a low-cost, high-value venue for students, faculty, and community events.
And grateful that you are able to hear me now. Amen. And welcome. We, again, are grateful to have this opportunity to extend to the community of Evanston and potentially beyond an opportunity for you to hear about the Ryan Field project. We're grateful to have folks here from Northwestern. You'll hear about them in just a few moments. But we are just delighted as an organization which is a civil rights organization that is the oldest and the boldest, the strongest and the longest, the most amazing civil rights organization in the history of the United States of America, the NAACP. So again, thank you and welcome. We want to recognize several people who are present, and we're grateful for your presence as well. If I overlook you the first time, someone will certainly let me know, and we'll mention you in just a few moments. But we have a couple of alderpersons who are here from the City Council of Evanston. Bobby Burns, if you would please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much. I believe Eleanor Ravel is here as well, and if she's here, would you please stand, Eleanor? Thank you so much for your presence as well. I believe that Alderperson Chrissy Harris is going to be here. I don't know if she's here yet, but she had another event and she'll be rushing over. We're also grateful to have with us Patrick Phillips, who is the CEO of Rise Opportunity Foundation. Patrick, would you please stand? Thank you so much. And we're also grateful for Pastor Rosalind Henderson of Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church is here with her husband. Thank you so much for your presence. We're grateful to Pastor Kenneth Cherry from Christ Temple Baptist Church. He is here with us today as well. I believe that Pastor Dennis Oglesby is here from Sherman United Methodist Church. If not, he is en route. He said that he would be here as well. We're also grateful to have a couple of local amazing people, Clarence and Wendy Weaver. They are from C&W Foundation, and we're grateful. Would you all please stand and be recognized? Luke Stowe is also with us. He is the city manager of Evanston. Luke, would you please stand up and be recognized? And then, of course, we could go around, and each individual in your own right, you are somebody. So we could introduce you all. So why don't you give yourselves a round of applause? Thank you for your presence. We're going to have hopefully an efficient and quick agenda for this evening. Following this welcome, we are going to have Dave Davis, who is the head of community relations for Northwestern University, who will come and offer a purpose for our gathering. After that, we're going to have Dr. Stella Salsu Hickman, who is the president of the Delta Omega chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, who is going to introduce the president. And then we're going to have Dr. Michael Schill, president of Northwestern University, who will come and talk with you. We're also going to have Ms. Sydney Craig, who is the president of the C&W Foundation Board, a member of North Shore Links, a member of North Shore Jack and Jill, and literally the most beautiful woman in the world. She's my wife as well, so I'm glad. She's going to introduce the athletic director, Dr. Derek Bragg, who will come forward and talk. Then we're going to have Q&A. So for those of you who are going to be having questions, and you know you're going to have questions, we do have index cards and pencils that will be passed out during that time. And if you would like to ask any questions, please put your question on the card, and co-moderators, myself and Mr. Michael Blake, will go through those cards to answer as many questions as possible as time permits. We're also on live stream, and those persons who have questions on live stream can go directly to the chat box and ask your question or write your question, and we will take a look at those as well and answer as many as possible. Finally, we're going to have next steps, and that is going to be by Michael Blake. Michael is a Northwestern alum, a former assembly member of New York, representing the borough of Brooklyn, and also a White House aide to President Barack Obama. Then we will have the conclusion, so we'll go forward in that order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Nabors, and good evening, everyone. I imagine my dad is smiling down right now because he wanted me to be a minister. And to see me in church on a Monday night has to be delightful to him. I did want to mention briefly, I see Councilmember Claire Kelly in the back, so I want to acknowledge the council member of the First Ward. So thank you for showing up. And Reverend Nabors, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for your leadership here in the Evanston community. You have been the conscience of the city of Evanston and just a champion for everything just and fair and honest. And so we appreciate you, and we're lucky to have you. And thank you for hosting us tonight in this historic venue. So thank you. It's okay to clap, folks. So the reason why we are here today is because, if you haven't heard, Northwestern University is embarking on the largest capital project in Evanston's history. And we see this more than just a football stadium. We see this as a place that can be a community asset for everyone in Evanston, from Isabella all the way to Howard Street. And far too often, for opportunities like this, Black and brown folks are the last people to the table. And so we were honored for Reverend Nabors to invite us here today to share a little bit more about what this means, again, not just for Northwestern University, but for the entire Evanston community, because I feel that we can do this together. We can build something that would be respected, cherished, and that will live on for generations, and create a pipeline for employment, and help to create generational wealth for communities in Evanston that have been disadvantaged for so long. And so in the spirit of efficiency, I'm gonna move along the agenda. So we have a short video that if you can just pay your attention, I guess the screen to my right over here, and then we will move on with the program. So thank you all very much for attending tonight.
Northwestern University has a world-renowned tradition of Big Ten football for over 100 years. And now it's time for something new. We have reimagined Ryan Field as a brand new, state-of-the-art stadium campus. The fan experience at the new Ryan Field will be unlike anything in college football. Every seat will provide a premium experience. Every fan will have access to world-class amenities. Harnessing the full potential of the site, we will create plazas adjacent to the stadium. This space will provide exceptional pre-game and halftime experiences. At the heart of the new Ryan Field design is the community's goals and concerns. We have a multifaceted plan to significantly mitigate traffic congestion, and Ryan Field will be a more intimate setting with 12,000 fewer seats. Fewer people at big games means fewer cars. We are committed to being the most bike-friendly college venue in America. We will streamline ride-sharing areas and provide door-to-door service to accommodate guests with disabilities. And we are engaging CTA and Metra to maximize the use of public transit. And the state-of-the-art canopy will significantly contain stadium noise and lighting. The best part is, no public funding will be utilized, meaning no taxpayer financing to build and maintain the new Ryan Field Plaza and campus. It will be funded entirely by the Ryan family and Northwestern University. We're not just building a football stadium, we're building a community asset. Evanston residents will gather, connect, learn, play, and celebrate year-round. Together, let's move into the future and build a state-of-the-art stadium that will make an impact for generations to come.
Well, good evening, everyone. I guess I have to pay attention more often. Well, it's an honor to be here to introduce Mr. Michael Schill. So I'll start with a little bio. Mr. Michael Schill took office as Northwestern 17th president on September 12, 2022. He also serves as a professor in the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. He previously spent 7 years as president of the University of Oregon, where he raised the university's profile in teaching, research, innovation, student access, and diversity. President Schill also led the extension and historic close of the university's fundraising campaign in 2021, which exceeded its goal with $3.2 billion total raised. Please give him a round of applause for that. President Schill is a nationally recognized expert in property, real estate, and housing law and policy. He is the author or co-author of 3 books and more than 40 scholarly articles. His work includes studies of the determinants of value in condominiums and cooperative housing, the impact of housing programs on property values, the enforcement of fair housing laws, mortgage securitization, and the effect of housing market regulation. He served as dean and professor at the law schools of University of Chicago and UCLA, and also held tenured faculty positions at New York University and University of Pennsylvania. Before beginning his career as a professor, Schill served as law clerk to the Honorable Marvin Katz of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania and was a real estate attorney at the New York City law firm of Fried, Frank, Harris, Shriver, and Jacobson. President Schill graduated in 1980 with an AB in public policy from Princeton University and a JD from the Yale Law School. We welcome President Schill to the Evanston North Shore NAACP Community Forum and to the historic Second Baptist Church of Evanston. Please let's extend a round of applause to President Schill.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Slisu Hickman, for that introduction. I always, as I get older, the introduction gets longer, the bio gets longer and longer, and given that I've been at a number of institutions of higher education, it feels like I can't hold a job. But hopefully that will not be the case here, and I will be here for years and years to come. I also want to thank Pastor Nabors. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. Thank you for inviting me back so I can hear the choir. We were talking about what an awesome choir you have, and I want to be back here and listening. And thank you for your leadership in the community. I also am honored and really grateful to be here with all of you as we talk about this very important project. Now, I've been here for 3 months so far, and it has been an incredible privilege to be part of this community. I've enjoyed shopping in the community, attending community events, getting lost on all the one-way streets down here, and walking my dog through campus and through the city streets. And I have to say, wherever I go, people stop me, and they've been so warm and inviting and welcoming, and I really appreciate that. Now, make no mistake, this community is both Northwestern and Evanston. The two are always going to be intertwined, and we don't take that for granted. Because of that, we have worked hard to engage and to listen to community members about their wishes and their aspirations for a new Ryan Field and all that that will mean for our community. Our current football field is 100 years old, or almost 100 years old. It is a great time to rebuild and reimagine what Ryan Field can mean in our community and for our community. Now, this rebuilding effort is a once-in-a-century opportunity to create a world-class facility. It would be the single largest investment ever made in the Evanston community. And importantly, as was mentioned on the video, this project is unique in that it will be built without any public dollars, without public financing. And that is, when you think about installations and stadia like this, that's remarkable. Now, there are 4 additional aspects of this project that I want to draw your attention to. One is we are committed to spending 35% of all construction contracts for minority and women-owned businesses. And this is a commitment. This is the right thing to do. This is what we want to do, and we think will have an important impact in creating equity for our community. This project is going to bring over 2,000 new jobs to Evanston and is going to triple the tax revenue to the city. This project will create a viable pipeline for Evanston residents to go from a job to a career and ensure the long-term financial stability of families. And lastly, this project will be environmentally sustainable, and it will be, when built, the most accessible stadium in the country. Now, ultimately, this project, this stadium, will allow us to continue building and enriching and strengthening Northwestern's strong partnership with the city of Evanston. And I'm so grateful to see the aldermen and alderwomen that are here today to join us. Our commitment is to strengthen the entire Evanston community for the well-being of all who live here, because we understand as Evanston goes, so does Northwestern. The strength of the two are in parallel with each other. So I invite you all to join us in this conversation and discussion as we all envision our future with this stadium, and we also think about how we can leave a positive impact for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing the athletics director, Dr. Derek Gregg, here at Northwestern. Dr. Derek Gregg became vice president for athletics and recreation at Northwestern University in June 2021. A native of Huntsville, Alabama, Dr. Gregg comes to Evanston with a long and distinguished career as an athlete, a coach, an administrator, as well as a diversity and inclusion advocate. Dr. Gregg most recently served as the NCAA's Senior Vice President for Inclusion, Education, and Community Engagement. Dr. Gregg holds a master's degree from Wayne State University in Detroit and a doctorate in higher education administration from the University of Arkansas. He previously served in athletics administration roles at several universities before coming here. He previously spent 8 years as the athletics director at the University of Tulsa, 7 years as the athletic director at Eastern Michigan University, and 6 years as a senior associate athletic director at the University of Arkansas. Dr. Derek Gregg is a native of Huntsville, Alabama, where he grew up attending First Institutional Baptist Church. He's married to Sonia Whitaker Gregg, a social worker and an author. They are the proud parents of 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and so we welcome Dr. Gregg to the Evanston North Shore NAACP Forum this evening, as well as to this 140-year-old church, Second Baptist of Evanston. Dr. Gregg.
I just really appreciate everybody being here. Absolutely have to thank Reverend Nabors, who has been a pillar in this community since he came here. And I want to thank the Evanston North Shore NAACP chapter. My mother, I've said this a lot, my mother in Huntsville, Alabama, back in 1965, with a handful of other black students, helped integrate a high school there. And she recently retired as their lead counselor in 2013. So that's a part of who I am. And I'm absolutely going to talk about the stadium, but people asked me to talk about a little bit about me. And so I just want to make sure I recognize and thank everybody. Also want to recognize council members Chrissy Harris and Juan Hadakatis. If we could have a hand for them, please. And I want to thank somebody that doesn't get a lot of praise. Danae Barricato is a deputy athletic director for us, and she's over our capital projects. I actually came to church here again, and I love the choir, and we'll be back. But as they mentioned, I grew up in a church a lot like this, so I feel at home here. And it's just great to be, and I'm a history buff, and I can feel the history here. This is the first African-American church created and established in this community. And so the word that I'm using tonight is impact. This church has a huge impact. That's a huge buzzword and one that I stand on. And when I went to Vanderbilt University in 1988, and I've been on a college campus almost every day since then, but I had three things. And I can say this because we're in church, all right? I had a football scholarship, a Pell Grant, and a praying mother. And that led to the fourth thing, which is opportunity. And we'll talk about opportunity and what is it about college athletics. It's big-time college athletics. Northwestern is a founding member of the Big Ten Conference. But what we're really doing is we're impacting young students, young student athletes. And I'll tell you a quick story. 2016, when I was the athletic director at Tulsa, some of you have heard me say this, we went to the Miami Beach Bowl, a great football team. We won 10 games that year. And to this day, this team is enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame. It was the only team that ever had a 3,000-yard passer, two 1,000-yard running backs, and two 1,000-yard receivers. Now, if you know football, that's pretty good, right? And so we go down to Miami, and if you've ever traveled with one of the entourages, the athletic administrators know this, that's a large undertaking. You take a whole team, 100-plus kids, the whole staff, everybody's families. It was around Christmas time, so we're waiting for the student athletes to go up the elevator, and we're standing down. I was trying to keep my 3-year-old from tearing down the Christmas tree in the lobby. And I noticed that the student athletes, they only had about 20 minutes to get to a team meeting. And they're coming up and going down, and I finally stopped one of them. He was the captain of the offense, one of the 1,000-yard receivers, and I said, hey, two, because there's so many of these kids. His name's Kevin Lucas, but I called them by their numbers. I said, hey, two, where are you going? Don't you have a meeting in 15 minutes? He said, yeah, Dr. G, we do. He said, but we're going out on the beach. Most of us have never been on the beach before. I've never seen the ocean. And so when you talk about opportunity, and when we went to Ireland, we talk about this too, 53 to 55% of those kids on that team didn't even have a passport before we went over there. So when we're talking about big-time college athletics, it's really about opportunity and exposing people like myself. And I know I would not be here if I did not play football at Vanderbilt University. So I'm very appreciative of that and always want to give back. So this project and the president, he mentioned some of the great things about it. I also want to talk about it being transformational. People ask me about it all the time. One word to describe it is it's intense. It's every day. We've been working on this, and Luke's sitting here nodding. He knows because he's heavily involved with the project as well. But it's intense in a very good way. It's time to do this. This stadium was built in 1926. It had a refresh in 1997. If you've been on our campus, we have some of the premier, most stellar athletic projects in the country, except for the football field. And we also want to fix the softball stadium. We've been talking about that too. Now, again, reinforcing the economic impact and potential of this project is vast. And the president mentioned 2,000 new jobs and careers, and 35% of the subcontractors, again, will say filled by companies owned by people of color and women. And it's not a lot of times that you will have university administrators and people in these positions commit to that, but we're committed to it because we understand what it means to the community. And also for me, growing up in a lifelong educator's home, just the effect that we can have on the community, our public schools here. And so being able to open it up to them for high school rival games, other activities in the stadium, state championship games, and do things in the stadium and make it more multi-purpose and accessible for everyone. We're talking about having students available out to the community that people can access and everyone can be a part of what we're doing. No other stadium in the country, it's maybe one other stadium, is actually built in a city. So that makes this a very unique situation to begin with. I've never been on a campus where we actually didn't have the stadium on the campus. So that's another opportunity for all of us. And again, looking at it as a community asset, not just something that the university will benefit from, is the way that we're looking at this. And so with that, I think we're gonna have some questions and answers. But again, just thank you, Reverend Dr. Nabors, for opening up your church. Again, I will be back. I feel very comfortable here. Love being in this community, been here about 16 months, and like the president, sometimes it seems like I can't keep a job either, but I look forward to being here a long time, and please, if you have any questions, and we also have staff members who can help you with those. So thank you again, and go Cats.
So at this time, I think we have ambassadors. If you have questions, we're going to ask if the ambassadors will take the index cards and pass them out to folks, as well as pencils. They are in the back by the door. Thank you so much. If you all could just come down, raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll go from there. And Michael Blake is going to join me with this Q&A. I'm looking on the chat right now. I don't see any questions just yet on the chat. Let me take a moment to also introduce some of the folks who are here. We're grateful for Ms. Willie Shaw, who is a member of the Executive Committee of the NAACP. We're also grateful for Indonia, who is also a member of the Executive Committee of the NAACP. Do we have anybody else from the NAACP who is here? If I can't see, if you would just raise your hand or stand. Well, let me do this. If you're not a member of the NAACP, let me see your hand. Willie, do you see all of these folks? Sign them up, sign them up. Thank you so much. We are gathering questions at this time.
Okay.
We are also grateful. I believe that Robin Rue Simmons has come in from First Repair and All Things Reparations. Robin, it's awfully good to see you. Also, I see Dino Robinson, who is here from Shorefront Legacy. Dino, it's awfully good to see you as well. Thank you for your presence. I would be remiss if I didn't say two things. Very grateful for our folks who are here from Second Baptist Church. We have the chair of the diaconate ministry, Mr. Craig Watson, along with his wife, also a deacon. We're grateful for your presence with us tonight.
Okay. We're passing out, good evening everybody, we're passing out cards right now, but we have a few questions here in the sanctuary. I'm gonna get my black Vanna White on right now with the microphone that moves around the room. We're gonna do this out here.
And Councilman Jonathan Newsma, are you here? Jonathan, yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna ask this because I think it's important. I'm grateful for all of the alderpersons who are here. Would you all just please stand so that you can be recognized? We thank you for all of the effort and dedication that you give above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you so much. Coming out on a cold night like this as well. Thank you.
Dr. Nabors, we have a first question here.
Yes, great.
So my question, first of all, I'd like to applaud the 35% commitment that you're extending to minority and XBE firms. My question in reference to the construction is, has a percentage of that, those sub-consultants, already been made? So could you speak to that and how much of that is really a current opportunity?
We are certainly inviting Dr. Schill and Dr. Gregg to come up and answer these questions, because it would be the only time you'd ever hear a Baptist preacher say, I don't know. Peter, hey, man.
I can't see who answered that question.
Right
was
here.
that?
Right here.
Okay. How are you doing? So her question was, the percentages, have they been written out? And so two things, just to remind everybody that long runway for us to get to where we're going to rebuild the stadium. In fact, it doesn't really start until next season's last game. So this is all part of the community outreach and explaining to people where to get the information and what information's out there. So at this time, the construction company contract has not been signed. And after it's been signed, there will be a project manager working specifically with members of the community, businesses in the university, that will outline all of those opportunities and chop them up into small pieces where hopefully everyone will have a piece of the pie. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
Yes.
Let me make one quick correction, Michael, before you go to the next question. Dr. Gregg, you said that Second is the oldest African-American church in Evanston, North Shore. It's the second oldest. The oldest church is the Ebenezer African Methodist Episcopal Church, which was also founded in 1882 14 days before Second Baptist. I keep telling my AME friends we are Siamese twins. That's what we are, but they have us by 2 weeks.
Dr. Nabors trying to have AME Baptist drama in here right now. Let's not do that right here. Second question, please.
Hi there. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to what the gold LEED certification will mean specifically. You know, how is energy going to be reduced? How is waste going to be reduced? How is construction waste going to be reduced? That kind of thing.
And for anyone from Team Northwestern, if we can introduce ourselves, please.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I'm Luke Fagora, the Vice President for Operations at the university. It's a really exciting opportunity from a sustainability perspective with the new stadium. So essentially, we're looking at it from all different avenues. So a big piece of it is obviously the transportation planning, relying heavily on public transportation, looking at kind of bike share programs, opportunities there. We've got on the infrastructure side of things, significant green space opportunities, water retention, real issues today with our ability to capture and kind of redirect. This kind of from the ground up here gives us a new opportunity from a water conservation, redirection, energy efficiency. We've got, today, if you've been in the current stadium, really limited opportunities to do much in terms of interior conditioning space, kind of managing the energy flow of the stadium. So really kind of across all these different aspects we're looking at. We've committed to LEED Gold. I've thinking opportunities to go above and beyond in certain aspects. So we're still in the relatively early design stages, so kind of design development, we're working towards construction documents, but that's been one of the pillars here. And we're looking at it, I think the other piece I would say is part of our overall campus sustainability plan. So we're in the process of refreshing our 5-year strategic sustainability initiatives at the university. And this is kind of one piece that will touch all those other aspects of campus as well, food waste, dining, et cetera. So really excited. We've got all the right teams involved internally on it, and it's something we're focused on.
If you have questions, if you can write them down and also put your hands up. And if we, for some reason, don't get to you, rebuildryanfield.com is the website. We have 2 questions here. Dr. Nabors, you can stand on up.
All right, so in regards to the 35% minority and business-owned companies, want to know what type of rigor will be applied to the selection process, and how do we prioritize local businesses as well? In addition to that, in regards to the 2,000 jobs for local, I'm assuming local folks, how do we try and have low-skilled or individuals who are not yet skilled or trained in that skill trade or whatever it is, and give them an opportunity to learn so they can use this as an experience to build a career off of as well?
Hello again. So I didn't introduce myself. I pretty much know everyone in here, so it's just thank you very much, Pastor Nabors. So Peter Braithwaite, for those who I've not had an opportunity to meet, I've served on City Council for 11 years, served as chairperson for the MWEBE program, as well as rotating chair for economic development, and now in my role at the university since February of this year, so it seems like a very long time. I'm director of diversity procurement and community engagement. So I work with Jim Conrad in the purchasing office and support Dave Davis in community engagement. So back there were 2 questions. I heard the first question had to do with opportunities for businesses, and there was a specific ask. So if you want to repeat that quickly. Yep. Yep. Right. Right. Yeah. Got it, got it. So opportunities for construction and then for the employment, correct? All right, so we'll deal with the construction first. So again, we have a long runway. And one of the things that I had mentioned in the first question is there's going to be a project manager that is going to be assigned to the prime. And that was a very important part of the bid process. So all four of the contractors had to explain what was their path to that up to 30%, right? So some of the things that we can guarantee and promise that it's not for anyone who has been in Evanston in projects, whether it's Albion, Robert Crown, there's always some, crate where you can meet with the contractors. We're actually pushing them to have a place, brick and mortar, in Evanston in close proximity to the stadium where businesses are going to be able to meet firsthand. And in speaking to the potential project manager, they're used to doing this. So there will be informational meetings that break down the bid packages, and there will also be opportunities to help businesses and support the business to make sure that they have what they need. So part of generational wealth isn't necessarily, and this is just my words, it's not making concessions, but it's building people up so that beyond this project, we want to make sure that they're able to compete for other projects, both in Evanston and outside of Evanston. So it's clear if anybody's paying attention to details, we don't have someone who we can purchase a ton of steel from. We're limited in what we could actually do with the exception of concrete. So some of that stuff is going to be important. But in terms of the bid packages that I talked about before, breaking those bid packages down that are going to meet the needs of our current business is going to be critical. So that's going to be a focus and something we're going to work really hard on. The second part of your question was, what are we going to do about the workforce development? And Luke, if I can quote you, I remember when you said this in one of the meetings, I got goosebumps because it took a while for it to set in. And he said, wouldn't it be amazing if every homeless person who had the potential to work is working on this project? And I sort of took that to heart, and I threw that at the construction manager. So how we get there, we're currently having conversations with Rebuilding Warehouse and any organization that's going to help our Evanston residents get job ready. So if that means taking care of their personal needs before that, that's going to happen, and then we're going to make sure that they get the training. And again, this is something that the construction manager has promised us. So does that address and answer your question? Thank you.
We have one that's online, and when I close out, because both of you had those questions, I know you also have one on that. We'll talk about MWB in a second. This is a question that we never hear at all. How will traffic be mitigated? I'm sure no one at Northwestern has heard this question at all. Yeah, the key question right here.
The key question. That is shocking.
Shocking.
I did not think we were going to have that question at all today. But in all seriousness, we take that issue around traffic management as well as any of the other, I would say, opportunities around the stadium very seriously. So we've engaged our neighbors for over a year now. We announced this last year, and in December we hosted our first community forum, where we introduced actually Dr. Gregg to the Evanston community. And since then we formed a working group in the 7th Ward because we wanted to make sure that if we did this, we're doing it in a smart way, that we can mitigate some of the historical challenges in that area. Now, traffic, we polled some of our local community members and we heard that traffic and congestion was the most significant challenge in that area. So we've hired a traffic consultant who is 75% complete with his study, but what he's found is that there are some opportunities even with the current stadium today in that space. For example, we can maximize and figure out how to better use Metro and CTA because in that area we're fortunate we have 2 transit authorities right there in that space. And so there are different incentives that we can provide. We can partner with the different traffic agencies to increase ridership. I think Luke spoke about a bike valet program. That's another opportunity in that area. And also, if you were paying attention to the video, you realize that the new stadium has 12,000 fewer seats. So fewer people come into that space means fewer cars. But there are also some additional recommendations that our traffic consultant will provide us. We'll continue to take all of those into consideration, continue speaking with our community members to make sure that we have the best possible comprehensive solution for traffic management in that area. Any other questions?
Well, there's always more questions, Dave. So in the chat, and we'll come back to in the room itself. So there's two that are in the chat. One is specifically about MWB opportunities that are non-construction jobs. And to the credits, Reverend Deborah Scott. So we got to make sure she's happy right here. How will there be a MWB program for concession on the vendors? So again, non-construction opportunities. And then the second question in the chat is explaining about the tax revenue that comes from this. As there was a person wondering, does Northwestern pay any taxes? What is actually happening from a revenue component? As the game of Jeopardy happens up front right now, of who's taking which one. So the first one is specifically what will be the MWB opportunities non-construction, so professional services, concession, et cetera. You know, there's a desire for that 35% to extend beyond construction. And then the second one was about Northwestern paying tax revenue from this. How will this impact the community? Oh, you want me to slide to the right? Slide to the right. I got you right here. I got it right here. Okay. And for anyone again, we're capturing questions in real time. We're going to make the rounds here, and we're trying to consolidate if there are similar questions, so please continue to write them down. We'll come back to the room. Peter.
Perfect. So I said this before, and I think it's important to make a distinction that our university, especially my role, is focusing really on the local. So know that all residents in the city of Evanston, we're focusing on local, but tonight we're in front of a targeted audience, right? So I think it's important that I share that there were some things that we learned from Robert Crown project that was only a $50+ million project, and that is, and I shared it before, that it's going to take some time to build some skill set within our community so people can take advantage of the jobs. So here we are a year and a half out, telling you that we are committed to this. And I just want to just take a moment and say, does everyone have this, like one of these flyers? Like, shake it so I can see that you have it like a fan. So do me a favor, and there's a QR code right here. If you have a cell phone, just scan that code. It takes you right to the site. Part of this outreach is to let you know that here's where the information is, just one of the places that's going to be contained. So all these questions that are being asked, hopefully we'll be able to build them into an FAQ. So in speaking to, just to get to the heart of the question, speaking to opportunities outside of construction, there will be opportunities for food concessions, there will be opportunities for other supplies. Anything that's connected to the contract that our construction managers pay is going to be advertised, and it's also going to be measured. And I think the other piece that will come later, much, much later, is once that stadium's built, you're going to have to employ people. There are going to be opportunities for food, and I think I saw the Murphys, the Weavers were here in the top, like earlier in this month, shake your head if you agree with that. We had a really good informational meeting specifically for food vendors and how to provide access to our many different food purchasing channels. So just like we're here doing general information, as we get closer to the construction date, we will be chopping this thing up and breaking it down into pieces where everyone will have an opportunity. So there was a second part of the question that I think involves...
The second part was about tax revenue.
Tax revenue. You got this?
Sure. I'm happy to talk a little bit about the tax piece. I would say, we've talked about we did an economic impact study. I think the video mentioned as well. We've talked a lot about it. I'm sure some folks have heard the numbers. As President Schill mentioned, I think an opportunity for something truly transformational from an economics perspective. The university will invest close to $800 million in this project, with obviously a tremendous amount of support from the Ryan family, from a gift that allows us to do this in a way that doesn't include any kind of public dollars. The construction alone that we've kind of modeled out is probably about $650 million in impact, economic impact to the city. And when you look at how the stadium operates for decades to come, you're talking kind of billions of dollars. That's really exciting. The actual kind of hard and fast tax numbers that we've talked about, a little over 10 million, it's probably closer to $12 million in permit taxes and fees directly to the city is kind of a one-time associated with the construction project. And then as we look further out and using the stadium more than hopefully just 7 football games a year, hopefully a significant amount of additional tax revenue coming from that. And right now, when you factor in kind of tickets and concessions, parking, all those kind of things generate tax income for the city. And hopefully when the stadium's used more frequently, you see even more of that activity. I think there's been a lot of focus from the Northwestern side on the economics. I think one piece we haven't talked as much about here is hopefully what the kind of vitality that the stadium brings as well. I mean, I know we were just talking about this up here with a few others, and just think about kind of what we've missed the last couple of years in terms of being together. And everyone's seen the renderings, but it is really our intention to find a way to use this to bring all kinds of people together again. And Dave mentioned from different areas of the city, hopefully different areas of the region. One thing we've always struggled with in the past, before Dr. Gregg's time here, just a kind of a feeling that Northwestern's athletics facilities, particularly the stadium, was kind of used for one thing and one thing only, and that was football. And I think that's a narrative we want to change, and we want to approach differently. And so there's economics, but I think there's something else that comes along with this on the social side as well.
We are moving around. I'm going to come over here in 1 second. I'm going to come back here first. For the Northwestern team, just as an FYI, 5 of the questions in the back were around MWBE issues. So we've captured those, I believe, thus far. Next question, please.
All right. Hello, everybody. Access to the stadium is a nice perk, but I wouldn't really call it an investment in the community. Can you please describe some ways potential ways that you will invest in the youth in the community?
Great question. You're about to get your steps in, Peter. You're going to be good.
All right, so the question is, one more time.
Youth investment.
Youth
How
investment.
are we actually demonstrating what we're doing for the young people?
Somewhere on that website that I just gave you, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, there's $49,000 that supports our Evanston non-for-profits that the university does every single year. And so I can make sure, I don't have all the full breakdown, but I think just from the top of my head, I know that the dance marathon contributes somewhere to $250,000 or something like that. But rather than guess, I'll make sure that that information is on the website. The other thing that I could tell you in just the brief time that I've had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Gregg, that he has spent some time speaking to representatives from the high school, school board, McGaw YMCA, and other organizations in town, just trying to figure out the right way that the university can support not only the youth that are here in the community, but also the programs in a meaningful way that do not conflict with NCAA standards. Of course, as you know, as one of the employees of the Big Ten Alliance. Does that address your question? Okay. Creating event space also.
Yeah, thank you for that, Omar. I think what Peter is trying to do is provide some historical context to show that this is not new for us. And so we've been invested in the community for a long time with a number of different programs for all the different organizations as well as the different constituency groups. So to more directly answer your question, the good thing about us starting this process so early is that we have an opportunity to go around and speak to all of our nonprofit partners, you being one of them. I know just down the street we have Canal Shores, and I've been in conversation with some of those folks. But I've also talked to the YMCA, the Evanston Community Foundation, we've spoken to the high school. So I think there are a number of opportunities for us to connect not just the space itself, but our student athletes, as well as our faculty researchers, our staff members, to some of the programs to help young people here in Evanston. We have a mechanism for that already, right? We just simply have to plug people in. We've been doing this for a long time. We can build on some of that success, but I think you're right. We have to be intentional to make sure that's part of the stadium project. One of the things that we threw out there, and I guess I can also put this out there today, this was recommended by one of the neighbors in the 7th Ward, But they said to us, hey, is there a way that you could, allocate a certain percentage of revenues to create a community fund so that we can figure out how to invest in local programs they didn't say specifically to help young people, but I imagine that could be one of the potential uses of that community fund. So again, because we're so early in the process, it gives us an opportunity to work directly with folks like you, with other community leaders, more specifically with our nonprofit folks, which we've begun some of those conversations with, to design those programs today. So we want to continue this conversation, and thank you for raising that, Omar.
We have a question here around the actual structure of the proposed stadium, please.
Thank you. My question is, you say this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build something. Why not dome it? Put the basketball in there, too. McGaw Hall is an old structure. I guess it's Ryan Floor right now, excuse me. But I remember it as McGaw Hall. It was, I think, the last field house in the Big Ten. And it had dirt floor in there, I think, up until the 1980s. So my point is, why not go big, dome this, have it all year round, have basketball in there too, you get much more use out of it. And the other reason for the question is, with this name, image, and licensing coming on to college football, there are a lot of smart people that schools like Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Stanford might not be able to compete with some of these bigger schools. And that it could be in the next 20, 30 years, Northwestern might have to make a tough call if they're going to stay in Division I. And my question is, why not, again, build a dome? You'll have something that's going to last a lot longer, and you've got, I think, enough money in your endowment to do it. So my question is, has that ever was brought up at the beginning to do that? And if not, why not?
Were you talking about your personal endowment? Yeah. Okay, your personal endowment. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understand what was doing right there. About the construction, you can see I was trained by Medill School in journalism right now, right? Is this a Dr. Greg or is this a Dave? Who's touching on this one?
I'll bring up our athletics team in a minute, but part of this is a process, right? And that's why we have to engage our community members earlier. So to build a dorm would require city council approval. And in speaking to a lot of our neighbors, there wasn't, I think it would be difficult to build a dorm while trying to address some of the community concerns that we've heard. So from a community relations standpoint, I think it's kind of challenging to get that dorm concept built.
You said you want a dome.
Dome, sorry.
Dome.
Sorry. I work for a higher education institution. Dorm, dome, they all kind of conflict. But same difference. I mean, there's a process to all of these types of requests. And so what we want to go out there and do as part of this process, which we did, was talk to community members. And the dome structure itself, again, from a community relations standpoint, we felt that would be more problematic for some of our neighbors. But I don't know if we have somebody from our athletics team to talk about.
And I also will mention the cost of that. And the newer stadiums that are domed are in the billions of dollars. And so we're already talking about doing the most expansive, most comprehensive college football stadium in the country. And so the canopy concept helps with that because it helps with the weather, and we already talked about the lighting and things like that. So we felt like this was probably as far as we could go, syncing it also. And he mentioned the city ordinances. We already have to go through a lot in that process. And then also with basketball, we just renovated, or the university renovated Welsh Ryan Arena just a few years ago. So we think that that's the correct space for that. It seats about right over 7,400, I think. And so having it in the football space, it would just be too vast to have basketball games there. So I think it's the exact right space. And we thank the Ryan family for that as well. They're heavily invested in that project too.
And noted about the NIL part that you referenced as well.
As we look for a few more questions, let me quickly say there are a couple of positive things that are coming in on the chat. I don't see any that are negative, but I hear people saying this is an important forum. Transparency is very important. Looks like a good crowd. Thank you for having this forum. So I just wanted to share that. That's coming in. Anything negative comes in, I don't know whether I'll share that or not, but we'll see. Yeah.
You can keep saying all the good stuff, Dr. Nabors. That's it right there.
Thanks very much. Good evening, everyone. And you mind if I hold this?
This is actually something we got trained in Medill. You never let go of the mic.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate the university's ambition with this program. I think it's very exciting. It would be great, I don't know if this is on the website, if there were actual details about the construction, the trades, the locals who are involved. There's a lot of dynamics with a construction project that really impacts how the mechanics actually work. So just information about that would be useful. I don't need a response on that right now, but the details would be helpful. But my real question, I put it on a card, but the real question has to do with ordinarily in a project like this, the general contractor is given an opportunity to pay a fee if it proves too challenging to meet the 35% target. I'd like to find out how challenging, how difficult we plan to make it for the contractor to really hold their feet to the fire to deliver on these targets.
I'll have some comments on that momentarily, but Pete, go on. Oh, ready to rock. You know, when they bust out the folders, you know it's about to get serious right there.
Can I deal with the... So I think it's important to understand that for everyone, just a reminder, the amount of time that we have in terms of getting the right information out there. And then the second thing, it's a private institution. And so whether it's a municipality, it's a county, or a statewide, everyone has different public measures and remedies in the event that these goals aren't met. I mean, I think the fact that we're here a year and a half early shows the commitment of that dollar amount and making sure that we hit it. And just for reference, so 2 quick things. NSP2 was 31 million. That was 10 years ago. ARPA is 40 million plus. So this is an $800 million project. So we're committed to 35%, but I'm just like, even if you get to $100 million coming into the Evanston community, that's like transformative and generational wealth, and I hope that you stay engaged and hold us accountable to it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone, Jim Conrad. I'm in charge of procurement at Northwestern, and Peter and I work together, but I think probably the most exciting thing about this is, first of all, we haven't had any conversations about including a dollar amount like that in the contract if the goal is not met. I mean, the fact that Peter and I are involved, we're not normally as involved in just the pure construction contracts, but we're all over this as a committee. We've already got a work group of people that includes all of the major the main contractors are going to be a part of it, facilities management, athletics, procurement. We're already meeting. We've started meeting bi-weekly, and I have a feeling that once these opportunities start flowing, we're going to over-communicate them to the community. I mean, you're going to see about these. We're going to have vendors who are going to have opportunities to bid on these, and we're all very committed to meeting or exceeding this 35%. And we're just really excited to get to the fun part of this project. So, anyway, thank you.
We have a question in the chat that I think Dr. Gregg is going to like in particular, but I'll say it's a good one. Don't worry. But I'll make up just a point of personal privilege here. So I ran the minority business portfolio for President Obama. It's one of the reasons why I was fine to get on board with this here. And something that several of us have talked about is not just looking at a 35% goal, but 35% spend in that vision. And I'll give credit where credit's due. The leadership has been consistent about it. You can see we don't have to give people talking points to get ready about this. You know, we're serious about this. This will be transformational for the people. Period, point blank. The Soldier Field has hosted the Windy City HBCU Football Classic over the years. The Classic is between historically black colleges. Would Northwestern be willing to host this event? I think it'd probably be good to bring up homecoming next year. That's why I said this would be good for you right here.
He's asking about, we're going to play Howard University for homecoming next year, which is pretty monumental here. And so, and I already told you about my background. Most of my family, HBCU bred. I have a senior right now at Howard. They didn't have anything to do with this game, but it's just coincidental, but it's good. Always interested in supporting the HBCUs in any way that we can.
We can do 3 more total. I want to be honoring of the clock, so we'll come here first. I hope y'all were clapping for Northwestern, not for Howard. Y'all were getting real, y'all need to stay focused on messaging here right now.
Yeah. This question is a pretty broad question. I think this is a great project. It's a very large project, and this is kind of for the new president as well. I know you're new here for 3 months. We would like Northwestern to do a little bit more for the city of Evanston, beginning at the school district levels, the nonprofits, and the 5th Ward. It's a beautiful town, and we have a lot of checks that fly through this town every day. And we would like a little bit more sensitivity on the needs that aren't so romantic. And this is off of the homage question. What we can really do for some of these great organizations in town, a little check goes a long way. And sometimes we really feel like we're on 2 different planets. You mentioned we're intertwined, but some communities don't feel that way. So I would like, you're new, you don't have to adopt the stigma or whatever they do at Northwestern, but we know it's a great town, but we need a little bit more pure money from Northwestern to the Evanston community.
Gotcha.
So, you know, as you recognize, I'm new. I view my popularity as at an all-time high. I'll never reach this again once I start making decisions. But but I hear you, and you know, this is something that is important to us too. That we understand as a university that we have a role to play in the community, and that it will be with this project, it will likely be a bigger role. And we take that responsibility seriously, and it isn't just because we want to get the project going, it's because we believe in it, and that is very important to us. You know, there's lots of ways that we can engage with the community. I mean, I was just 2 or 3 nights ago at the firemen's award ceremony, and they thanked us for providing them with a fire truck. There's other ways that we can get involved and be involved. And I don't just, so writing a check is one way, but also getting involved in the organizations. And you know, my experience is that a big part of my job and what people expect of me is just showing up and showing one cares and showing that one's committed, and then following it up with material aspects also. So I hear you and I agree with you.
He also kind of left out like he's a housing expert and understands real estate and urban policy, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll brag about you, Dr. Schill, right there. Okay, there's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Make Central Street CTA ADA accessible. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. There's a question back here. There was one over here. We got a few over here. Okay, hold on. Now you've been trying to get my attention. It's for you or for someone behind you? Okay.
Just a 2-part question. Sorry. Out of that $280 billion, that's 35% of $800 million, right? How much would be specifically designated for native-born Black Americans from Evanston? Specific.
I don't think we have that number yet, but I would say the disaggregation of the numbers and the data will happen with this project. We won't have let's just address, please. You don't want to have a lump number of like, I don't understand what Black folk and Latino folk and Native American got. Question is noted. We don't have that answer yet, but we'll make sure we disaggregate data as we move forward.
So that information will be publicly known?
It will be. Right here. Yeah, well, y'all about to grab me up right here.
I'm not going to grab the mic either. All right. My question is more related to project management. One of the things that I do know is in building large-scale projects, there's an area of readiness, and there's multiple states of readiness. How can we ensure that organizations can be part of the readiness process Say, for instance, you got Black Business Consortium, you got the Black Political Network, you have First Repair, you have all these different organizations. Is there any way that these organizations that represent multiple businesses, right, can be part of the readiness state, so we don't wait until we get to the project phases and start asking the monitoring and controlling questions about meeting the criteria by hitting the 35 percentile, right? Which would be even better if we go over the 35%. But how do we make sure that those organizations can be part of the discussions, not all, but at least part of being at the table having great conversations about what we know and what we can assist and build over time to make this not just something that occurs for Northwestern for now, but a relationship that's long-term for other projects as well.
Luke?
Feel free to jump in. Clarence, I really appreciate that question. I would say we absolutely see that as kind of starting now. And that's, we've been, Dave, Peter, and Jim, out meeting with anyone that will meet with us to talk about the project. But part of that's business readiness, and Jim mentioned, we've kind of separated the get ready from a construction perspective, actually kind of site design, all that kind of stuff. That's obviously going on to make sure we're ready when that time comes. But we're kind of all the work that Jim's doing and Peter's doing to start identifying business partners, get them in a pipeline. Think about actually workforce development pipelines. Well, 4 years from now, feels like a long time, and even kind of December feels like a long time. It's going to happen like this. And so we're starting those conversations now. We met with the Chamber of Commerce a couple weeks ago. We learned some great things even in that conversation. We see obviously things like the additional spaces around the stadium is plus, right? Something new for the community to use. We have ideas about festivals and things like that. And one thing we heard is, let's just make sure we're coordinated on that, right? Well, if we're running an art fair, let's not do something at the same time. And so those are the conversations we want to start now, frankly. And I think we've tried to make ourselves as accessible as possible on this project. So if there are ideas and you think we're missing, a channel, by all means, reach out to any one of us. Yeah. Excellent.
We're going to make this the last one from the room. So make it real good.
I'm a PhD candidate at Northwestern, and it seems like there's a lot of...
Can we clap that up right there?
So it seems like there's a lot of institutional attention being given to this major project, but maybe not a lot of institutional attention being given to the Graduate Student Union. Of course, I understand that the money for this project is coming from a donation, but PhD students at Northwestern are overworked and underpaid with our heavy teaching load and not heavy graduate stipend. So I'm wondering, with such a major project, how can we ensure that issues like these across Northwestern are still getting adequate attention?
I love that I can see everyone start putting their hand around Dr. Schill in real time over there. They were like, you go and answer that one. You go and answer that one right there.
So I think you'll understand you're about ready to vote on a union, and I'm not going to take a position one way or the other. And you probably wouldn't want me to take a position one way or the other. So I will pass by that, other than to say that we care deeply about all of our students. One of the reasons why Northwestern is a great university, one of the reasons why Evanston is so prominent because of Northwestern is our graduate students, right? We're sort of, as you know, we're sort of unique in that we're over half graduate students, and that shows how much we deeply care about higher education and graduate education. So we care about you. We want to make sure that you are appropriately supported, and I'll sort of take a pass on the question of whether we want to see you fully supported and call you employees, or whether we're just going to always call you students, because I'm proud of you as a student.
So there's obviously many more questions in the room that we could gather, so if you can please write them down and leave them with our ambassadors and write your contact information. That'd be incredibly helpful to each of us, so we can have follow-up there. We have some of the ambassadors standing up right now for that follow-up itself accordingly. Before we keep going, before we do anything else, can we give a round of applause to Reverend Dr. Nabors and First Lady Nabors for allowing us in their space today? So, my name is Michael Blake. I am a Medill 04 alum. I got some other alum in the room that I've seen as well. What up, Allison? What up, right? So, I want to humanize this for a second before we talk brass tacks. So, literally today I've been in 3 different cities. My morning started in DC, where I was supporting my best friend, Jason Wright, who's the president of the Commanders, first black NFL president who's a Northwestern alum, and which we should have great pride that was one of our own. Now he went from 1 to now having 4 black presidents that quickly itself. I went home because there was a homegoing service that I had to attend. It was for the grandmother of my goddaughter, and I told them, despite having to get here, you got to make sure you take care of family, right? But I'm here tonight, and I'll talk about call to action, because Northwestern truly transformed my life. I'm a kid from the Bronx, New York. No one in my family had went to college before. The book Savage Inequality of Children in American Schools that Jonathan Kozol wrote about was written about my elementary school while I was there. PS 79, I was there at that time. James Carter was my principal. And at the end of my freshman year here, driving back home, I fell asleep at the wheel. And if it's not for the hands of God and the luggage of the car, I go over the cliff in the hills of Pennsylvania that day. I wrote out something to myself that said, "Dear God, may today be my greatest day, greater than the great day I had a day before, but my goal has not been met unless tomorrow's the greatest of them all." I am starting there because even after I left Northwestern, this state is my community, even when I wasn't here. You know, whenever I see Tanya, you know, I led the youth choir over at Sherman United Methodist Church. We came on back. Jeff Schoenberg was my first political boss over at 828 Davis. That's where I met this other Jamaican, this yardman here, Dave Davis, right here. All right. Jamaicans with tree jobs and everything like that, right? All right. Yeah, you know, Miss Sia. But I wanted to humanize the point because this is a conversation. This is not done unless you, as the people of Evanston, say you want this to happen, and for the electeds to decide they want to move forward on this. I was elected myself. I was an assemblyman for 6 years in New York. I was the vice chair of the DNC 4 years, so I understand what you're going through in these reflections. But you already understand transformation. You got reparations done in Evanston, right? I mean, so when we talk about why we're grateful that you would come on a Monday night ahead of Christmas, while we are celebrating the Festival of Lights for Hanukkah as well, because we really do believe that this will change the game. And for the questions that were asked about youth programs, I ran the My Brother's Keeper program nationally. I'm real clear, you're not gonna have something like this happen without a change in the life of the kids. You know? So, the call to action. It is our ask that you would be welcoming and encouraging others to learn about what's happening here. Not gonna have every answer right, not gonna get every single detail clear, but at least to engage in the conversation. You have several of our team members as ambassadors that are in the room and outside. At a minimum, when you see someone talking about Rebuild Ryan Field, all we're asking is that go to the website, give the information so you can learn more about what's happening, but to demonstrate, hey, I may not know every single thing, I may not agree with every single thing, but I support us moving forward in the conversation. That's all that people are asking. Going a little bit deeper, some of you want to host house parties. We've said thank you for those of you who have said, we welcome that. Some of you that said you're willing to have a yard sign. Now, I don't know about you standing outside 2 degrees. I'm Jamaican. I don't deal with cold like that. But like, if you want to be outside with the yard sign, we welcome that. But all that we're asking is that when you leave from tonight, let people know that there is something that can be transformative for Evanston. You know, so rebuildryanfield.com is the website. We're asking, if you have not as of yet, to please sign the petition if you are willing to. And quite frankly, just have conversations about what's possible here. I'll close by saying this before bringing up Reverend Dr. Nabors. There are two definitions of time. One that many of us utilize regularly. First is chronos, so that's chronological. That's hours, that's seconds, that's minutes. But the one that matters to me the most is kairos. Kairos means opportunities to create moments. Very rarely can you be a part of something that can be a transformative moment. And the AME minister that I am, I don't believe it's coincidence that you have on one side of the country a Northwestern alum going to build a transformative stadium in Jason. And if we can do this with you, an opportunity to create something transformative here as well. This is the kairos to do something special. So again, we ask before you leave tonight, sign the petition, learn more information, let more of your neighbors know what's happening. Let's do something transformative. Without further ado, let's close it out. Reverend Dr. Michael Nabors.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I especially want to thank Dr. Schill and Dr. Gregg and everybody from Northwestern and everybody from the Evanston community. I want to thank all of the alderpersons who came out tonight and all of you. This is an important information gathering session. That is what this is. And I think there's been a level of transparency that we don't always see. And I think that is critical and important. And I want to say to the folks from Northwestern, I've been here 7 years, but I lived in an awful lot of communities. I think this is about the most progressive community that I've ever lived in, particularly when it comes to the high achievement, the skills, the excellence of the Black community, the Latinx community, the women community, the Asian American community. We are an amazing community, and we want you to take advantage of all of that. We have all sorts of issues, like every community does as well. But if we can figure out how to create a gown and town relationship, as Dr. Schill said, where we are working together and accomplishing together, I think that eye has not seen and ear has not heard what great things are in store for the Evanston community. I also want to give thanks to all of the pastors who are here and those who are on live stream. There were a lot of kudos given to me tonight, but I have to say that I am not alone in this. My colleagues in ministry, especially in Black churches, have been absolutely phenomenal as well, and in all houses of worship. That's another very, very strong asset for the Evanston community. The Evanston interfaith community is tremendous. So we thank you all. The final words will be a quote from Benjamin E. Mays. I believe that it's important for us to know that there is an urgency to the times in which we live. Tomorrow is not promised. If this is a project that City Council deems worthy to approve and to move forward, then we need to take full advantage of this Kairos moment. I only have a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, didn't choose it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Go in peace. Happy holidays, everybody. God bless you.